Hello everybody, Anthony with Tony's Racing Engines. This video is for you guys at home that are building your engines in your garages. I want to talk about cylinder honing and boring. Most of the time you're not going to be boring an engine in your garage. If you got a lot of determination and time, you totally can. This block is a new block. It's the cylinders are bored basically 10 thousandths undersized so that you can fit your correct pistons. We do have capabilities of using a CK10, all that stuff. We're at home in our home shop so that we can show you guys it is possible to get very accurate cylinders in your garage using pretty inexpensive tools. Not everybody has capabilities of getting a $30,000 machine used just to bore cylinders out. But you'll see a lot of people using those 3-stone things you get at Walmart, and that's just not the way to do it. You could cut glaze off with that. If you're rebuilding a stock engine that has perfectly good cylinders and you just want to cut the glaze off, sure. I would use a ball hone over one of those though. Basically one of these. That's going to cut glaze a lot better, give you a better finish. Those 3-stone deals you get at AutoZone, just don't even ever think about using one of those. They're horrible. To do an accurate bore in your garage though, the first thing you absolutely need is a torque plate. This torque plate is going to simulate having a cylinder head bolted to the block so that it distorts the cylinders in the way it would when the head's bolted on, because it will distort it quite a bit. With the Ford small block engines, it's not so bad, especially a racing block like this, a Dart SHP block. Everything's a lot thicker. It's got 1/2-inch studs, and the main reason is these studs are, you can see how far away they are from the cylinder wall. If you're working on like a small block Chevy or a big block Chevrolet, there's obviously a lot more bolts and they are a lot closer to the cylinder walls, and they distort the cylinder walls a lot. You can almost get away with not torque plating a small block Ford. You're not going to have any issues really. But if you don't torque plate a small block Chevy or a big block Chevy, you're gonna have issues. You won't have proper ring seating. So what I do use, if I'm doing it this way, is a Lyle's 1600 hone. And you got 2 brushes, 2 stones, and they get one off for you. They just look like this, they just clip on. It's a stone. So the thing that is so time consuming with these and takes a long time is they don't cut very quickly. And a lot of guys that do have this hone are using a regular drill, and you can't put a whole lot of pressure on this thing and run a regular drill. You'll smoke your drill out almost instantly. So your best bet is to get, if you can see, I've welded a spline drive to this so that it will work with this Bosch concrete drill. And I just turn hammer mode off and then turn it on to low. And that thing has worked for years and years and has never burned up on me. And I can put a crap load of load on it and cut pretty quickly. But yeah, you just can't do that with a regular drill. You wouldn't even get through 3 cylinders trying to do that without it starts smoking. So those are the 3 major things you need. You have to have a torque plate, you have to have a decent hone, and you have to have a good drill. What I use for cutting oil actually is WD-40. I don't use honing oil when I'm doing it this way. Honing oil, it does work really well, but when you're in an environment like this where it's not in a machine that's pumping and circulating it for you, it can get really messy because you're just pouring oil like crazy everywhere and oil builds up. So what I actually use is WD-40. If I could use WD-40 in my CK10, I would, but the CK10 gets so hot and it's running a diamond stone and all that. It's not really great for the diamond stones, and what happens is WD-40 evaporates like crazy, so your whole shop will get all musty and taste like WD-40, so you just can't. That's why we don't run it in the CK10s. But on this app, the way we're doing it this way, this is the best for WD-40, because the WD-40 kind of like dries up and goes away. It doesn't make a huge mess. You get a bunch of metal left over. That's what you're left with, and yeah, your hands look like that. So another thing is that when you're doing it with stones like this, you got to really measure. This is, a Mac Tools dial, dial bore gauge. It is the most basic one you can get. I think they're $200. You can get them a little cheaper, but I try not to get too cheap. The biggest thing is to sit here and measure it, like hone, and then go in and check and keep checking. And what's going to happen is that cylinder isn't gonna, since this is a cheaper style way to do it, and it's not a diamond stone, the stone's going to wear. So however the cylinder is, the stone will start to wear to that cylinder. If it starts to hourglass on you, your stones are going to start to hourglass on you, and you're going to continuously have an issue. So you do have to get good, take your time and get good at how you're stroking and going in and out, how long you're staying at the bottom, how long you're staying at the top. And you got to remember, if you stay at the bottom and you're going at the bottom all crazy, and then you come at the top, get all crazy because you're, the center of the cylinder is bigger than the rest, and you're thinking you're bring it all the way to the top, and get the top out, bring it to the bottom, and get all the bottom out. Well, what happens is when you bring this thing out of here, and it cut, not all the way out, obviously, but when you start to bring it outward, it can start to walk a little bit, and it'll actually run this on there, and it's only getting the edge. So you are at all times hitting the center of that cylinder, and it will create an hourglass type thing going on, or not an hourglass, but you know what I mean. So the way to get around that is just the way you're moving it in and out, your speed, your pressure, all of that stuff counts. And one of the biggest things you most likely will have to do when you're starting off doing this is you're going to have to dress your stones all the time. You're going to have to stop. You're going to notice that it's not taking nothing out of the bottom, and it's taking everything out of the top. So what you're going to have to do is dress your stones by taking off material of the stone on the top very minutely, leaving more material on the bottom of the stone. So that way when you put it back in there and you start honing, it's going to put more pressure at the bottom and cut that out like you need it to. So it's very finicky. It's very time consuming, and it takes forever, but it is doable, and you can do it right. I can get these cylinders within 0.2 to a tenth of a thousandths, which is very, very good. I can do just as good a job as I can do in a CK10 or any other CNC operated fancy machine. And getting crosshatch properly, getting the right crosshatch properly, has to do with your speed, how fast you're going in and out. So that's a skill you got to acquire. So this isn't something I would recommend going and buying a new block and going to town on. I would get a junk block and screw around with it. Get yourself a bunch of stones. Do not buy your stones on Amazon. I think I've bought a few from there that did work, I think. But any stones I've ever bought from Amazon, I get like 15 rotations and it's already loosened up. The stone's deteriorating. The stone will actually break down even more. Just like I was saying, the stone will start to take shape of a bad cylinder and get even worse. The Amazon stones, you will be chasing your tail with them. Do not order them. You will hate your life. Get a good quality stone. I believe Sunnen is who we're getting our stones from, and they even have special stones that are a little bit skinnier. Not skinnier, but they're shorter, so that you have a less contact point. It's a lot easier to get in there and get into a certain area at the bottom or at the top without having this big long stone getting worn and, taking a shape of the cylinder. When you have a smaller stone, it's easier to concentrate on smaller areas. So get good stones, do your research and get good stones. Torque plates, any torque plate's going to work. They're all the same thing for the most part. I like to use ICT billet aluminum ones. I use aluminum cylinder head, so I use an aluminum torque plate. And TCI just makes really good torque plates. I think they're $300. You can also rent them. There's a lot of companies online that you can rent one for like $45 or something for any engine you're building, because buying a torque plate for whatever you're building, as long as you're only building small block Chevys or small block Fords or a certain kind of engine, maybe you're a circle track guy, then you should buy one. But if you're a little home shop and you're just doing motors here and there and you're doing different engines all the time, then you should just go the renting route. That way you just rent it. Maybe you have a customer or something you want to do something for, or a friend, you just rent it, charge them. You don't have to have any money out of your pocket. So yeah, that's pretty much in a nutshell. It is a pain in the butt. It's very doable, but you have to practice, take your time. It can be really frustrating and hard. Make sure you use a lot of WD-40. I try to squirt some in there very often. I'm honing for a couple minutes, like not even a couple minutes, like 10 seconds, and then I'm shooting more oil in there, because the more you can get, the more crap you're getting out of there, and just the faster it'll cut. So use a good amount of oil, be patient. If you guys have any questions, or if you're having any issues with what you're doing, you guys can give us a call at 530-575-1690 and talk to Anthony, or you can visit our website at tonysracingengines.com. Don't forget to like and subscribe so we can make some more videos for you guys. Thank you. I hope this was helpful.